Hello guys, welcome to the new edition of this particular YouTube channel, Mr. Ade Ayobet. In this video, we'll be unveiling the secret behind selecting the best matches for under 3.5 goals. Actually, we will analyze some top matches that fit this particular criteria perfectly. But before we do that, I would like us to check the top 10 games that have at least 80% of their games ending up in under 3.5 goals. Alright, so this particular app happens to be an app that we've been using on this particular channel and also the other channel of ours. And looking at it, this is the headline that shows the best leagues for under 3.5 goals. So from these particular leagues that we have here are the games are where we are going to be getting our games to analyze, and we are going to be checking the stats from it. So we have the top 10 games here that has at least 80% of their games ending up in under 3.5 goals. But this is not what we are going to be relying on alone. We are also going to be checking the stats and some other factors from their last 5 games against other teams and against each other. So if you look at this very well, it shows that the first game that we are currently having the first league that we are having here happens to be South African League with 87%. But this is not the best league that actually has the 100%. But based on the fact that I activated the button for showing only leagues with upcoming matches. But in case you want to look at the general league, the general stats, leagues that always play, most times they play under 3.5 goals. This is it. So we have it here. So this particular league is not the common Premier League for the Scotland League, and they always have 100% of their games ending up as under 3.5 goals. And same thing with Algeria League, they had 88% before coming to South Africa, being the third league that plays under 3.5 goals. So we are not going to rely on this alone, but will just serve as factors for us to guide us in predicting it. So in today's video, we have top 5 games that you can actually go for as under 3.5 goals. Without wasting much of our time, we are first we are going to look into the first game under the South Africa League that we have, which happens to be the first game in today's video. But before I proceed, I would like to congratulate most of our members from this particular channel at Your Bet Predict that actually watched the latest video on that particular channel that is about the top 5 matches for over 1.5 goals and the reason why we picked them as the games fitting for over 1.5 goals. There are some factors that we considered similar to what we are going to do in this particular process, and that actually came out with very good results. All the games came out well, and the factors that we considered are vividly explained in that particular video. Alright, so in case you're also a fan of going for over 1.5 goals, you can actually watch that particular video because it will really help you when it comes to predicting over 1.5 goals. So these are the top 5 games that we actually predicted and that we did the analysis on in that particular video, and they really came out so well. Alright, so without wasting much of our time, we are going to proceed into what we are actually focusing on today, which happens to be the best league to predict or play your games on as under 3.5 goals. So we said that our first game to do an analysis on happens to be under the South African League, and this particular game is between Polokwane City and their opponents. Actually, the name seems to be very complex to pronounce. Alright, so if you are browsing through your bet platform, in case you are not using this particular bet platform, no problem. What you just need to do is just to focus on their last 5 games against other teams. That aspect happens to be very most important aspect because that particular aspect will give you an insight of their current performance and how they play their game, their styles of playing games. Alright, so now the next thing to do is now let us check the stats. Let us move on to the stats. So we click on the stats. That is for if you are using this particular bet platform. There are so many factors that this platform provide that you guys can actually make use of when it comes to predicting over and under points. So the first aspect that we are going to look into is to check the last 5 games against other team. And what we are going to look in there is that we are going to look at the last 5 games and see if 80% of their games actually ended up in under 3.5 goals. Looking at the home team, it seems that 100% of their games actually ended up as under 3.5 goals, and looking at the away team, it seems like 80% of their games actually ended up in under 3.5 goals. So additional factors that you guys can actually apply to your predictions is to check their last previous games against each other. 60% or 80% of their last previous games against each other must have actually ended up in under 3.5 goals. So what do I mean by 60% or 80%? Let's assume that out of the last previous games against each other, maybe 3 of it actually ended up in under 3.5 goals. You can still consider it okay as a yes, depending on how safe you want to play your game. And if 80% is 80% of their last 5 games against each other actually ended up in under 3.5 goals, you can actually go for it as under 3.5 goals. But if you have this particular bet platform, you can actually make further use of some other factors. But before we move on there, let us check the last 5 games of this particular team. But unfortunately, they've only played 4 games. And don't forget, what we need there is mostly 60% or 80% of their last previous games against each other that ended up as under 3.5 goals. So let's see. So looking at the last 4 games against each other, most of it actually ended up in under 3.5 goals and even under 2.5 goals, which happens to be 80 percent. Let's assume that they've played 5 games, so at least we've been able to get 4 games that actually ended up in under 3.5 goals. So this particular segment of the start is actually okay from our own side if you have to look at it. So in addition, in case you have this particular best platform in hand, or in case you have any similar app that can provide you with stats very similar to this, you have to go to the head-to-head new. I always make sure make use of this particular segment very well because of the average point and average goal scored stats that they always provide for me. And let us look at it, and let's look at the head-to-head new. And looking at the head-to-head new, we have different segments that they provide. We have the goal scored, we have the both team to score, we have over 1.5, we have over 2.5 goals, card and corners. But what we are only concerned about this particular segment happens to be goals. Alright, so now let us check the goal scored. If you look at the average goal scored by both teams, you will realize that these two teams actually had, in combination, they had 1.92 average goal scored, 1.92, alright, in the last previous games. And looking at the league average goal scored, we can see that it is 2.18, which seems to be greater than that of these two teams. And in addition, you guys will notice that this particular league average goal score by the league, it seems to be 2.18. And mostly, if you want to go for leagues that they score goals very well, you are going to be seeing something around 3 point something and above. These leagues that are 3 point something above happens to be the best leagues to actually go for over 1.5 goals. So you seeing any leagues having 2.1 something or 2.2 something or 2.4 or 2.5, they are leagues that partially they most times their games does not always end up as maybe over 1.5. Most times they play under games. All right, so this particular aspect actually validates this particular game as under 3.5 goals. And another aspect that you need to look into is looking at their percentage of over 1.5 goals. Normally, in case you want to play your games as over 1.5 goals, you should be looking into something around maybe 80% and above, or 79% and above. Or so now in a situation whereby you are seeing something like maybe anything below maybe 70%, maybe you're having 68, you're having 66, you're having 67, 65, 64 and below downward, leagues or games that are providing something like this shows that for them to score goals, or for them to have more than 2 or 1 goals, it will be very very difficult. All right, so now the last segment for you, in case you have this particular platform, is to look at the team stats, and that is when they are playing home and when they are playing away, as the current situation is. So this stats will provide you with the stats of the teams that we are going to play our games on when they are playing at home, and this is for the away team also. So we are just going to check their away record, away stats and the home stats, and let's see what we have there. So looking at this, we have 67% of the home team's games ending up in over 1.5 goals, and the away team games ending up in 100% of over 1.5 goals. So this particular aspect seems to be the only aspect that seems to be kind of complex. Are you getting it? So when it comes to predicting games, we have different factors that will be included in some games, and we have different ways that you can deal with it. So the purpose of adding, considering different factors, is to make sure that our games is perfect before we can play on. And I want you guys to know something. We may not always have the total control on how we predict our games or on the outcome of games, but at least to some extent, when you do some analysis to some extent, you know that okay, you've tried enough. So based on the total factors of this particular game, I think it is 90% sure that the game will actually end up as under 3.5 goals. Now, another aspect is to look into the odd allocated by the bookmakers. There are some games that the bookmakers will allocate maybe like 1.20 something for the odd, for the game to end up as under 3.5 goals. Probably the bookmakers might have seen something, that can influence the game to exceed that particular figures. But you are, in case you also want to do your analysis on the probability of or percentage of possible outcomes based on the odd allocated by the bookmakers, you can actually watch the previous video made on the top 5 games on over 1.5 goals and see or check the odd calculation in this particular channel. All right, so now the odd given to the bookmakers it happens to be 1.10 odd for the under 3.5 goals of this particular match in South Africa League. And in case the bookmakers are deleting this particular option, which happens to be under 3.5 goals, don't stress much. There is a particular option that is called goal bound. This particular goal bound shows that okay, the band of that the games that you predicted, the band of goals that it will be, that it will not exceed it. So let us say the let's set it from 0, that is we are bounding the goal from 0 to 3, from 0 to 3, at least it will not exceed 3. So the odd seems to be 1.09. You can actually go between the one that you prefer. So I prefer going for the 1.10, but in case they are deleting this particular odd line for the under 3.5 goals, you can actually utilize this particular option if the bookmakers are providing it. All right, so without wasting much of our time, let us move on to the second match. All right, so the second match seems to be under the Morocco League, and the Morocco too, they are well known for playing under games. Most of their games, most times, does not always end up in over goals. And in order to predict your under 3.5 goals, you have to consider the start also and consider the pattern of playing of the teams that you want to go for. So let us quickly check the stats and check the last 5 games. For people that are not using this particular bet platform, the only available factors that you can actually consider is the last 5 games against each other and against their previous opponents. So if you have to look at this particular stats against other teams, you will notice that most of their games ended up in on straight draw and under goals. And looking at it, we have 80% of the home team games ending up as under 2.5 goals, and for the away team also we have their games 100% ending up as under 2.5 goals. This actually is a perfect game to go for as under 3.5 goals. Now let us move on to the last previous games against each other. All right, so looking at it very well, we can see that in the last 5 games against each other, they had 100% under 2.5 goals. Now this is a perfect start for me in case I want to go for under 3.5 goals. All right, so let us check their head-to-head new, and let's see what we have there. So the average goal scored for this particular league seems to be 2.81, but in combination of these particular two teams, it happens to be 1.00, and this is a perfect game to go for. And looking at their over 1.5 goals percentage, we are seeing 50%. And don't forget, anything from 69 downward, there are games that you are expecting maybe less go from it. All right, so now moving on to the aspect, the team starts, that is when they are playing at home and are playing away, and we can see that their percentage of that also of it is very very low. We are having 60% for the home team, and we are having 67% for the away team for over 1.5 goals whenever they are playing home or when the away team is playing away. All right, so the next segment now is to check the odd allocated to this particular match by the bookmakers. Let's see that also. All right, so if you have to look at it, the bookmakers are allocating 1.15 odd for the under 3.5 goals of this particular match, and for the goal bound option, let us check the odd allocated by the bookmakers. All right, so you guys can see that this is 1.16. So that is the purpose of navigating between the goal bound option of 0 to 3 or predicting direct under 3.5 goals. That is the odd. The odd allocating to this particular market are not the same thing sometimes, but they are the same. Like they are the same market. Indirectly they are the same market. If the game ended up in under 3 goals, then you win your game. But the way they allocate their odd to it, I don't know, it's always different with just 1 point sometimes. All right, so this happens to be the second game under the Morocco league. That's the second league. All right, so we are going to move on to the third game, the third match that happens to be the best match to go for as under 3.5 goals in today's video, and that is Egypt's league. At least the Egypt league seems to be in one of the top 10 leagues that you can actually go for as under 3.5 goals, and one of the best leagues that you can actually go for predicting straight draws and games that you can easily predict your match as straight your predictions as straight draws. They are games that you know that most times they don't always score goals. All right, so this happens to be Egypt 2 Division A league, and that is the match here that we have actually here. And the first thing that we are going to do is that we are going to check the stats and see the factors that we have there. So we are going to check the last 5 games against other opponents before going for their last 5 games against each other. All right, so looking at the last 5 games against other opponents, we can see that the home team actually had 100% of their match ending up as under 3.5 goals, and looking at the away team, we can see that 100% of their games actually ended up in under 2.5 goals. This is a perfect start for me right from the start. And moving on to the head-to-head new, what we actually need from the head-to-head before going for the head-to-head new, what you actually need from their head-to-head, that is the last previous games they've played against each other, we need at least 80% or 60% of their game ending up as under 3.5 goals. So in the last match they played 2-0, and in the last 2 games they played 4-1. Situation like this always occur in football games, and that's why sometimes we cannot always have 100% control over games, but at least we are able to get 60% of their last 5 games against each other as under 3.5 goals. All right, so now let us move on to the head-to-head new, and this particular head-to-head new seems to be where we are going to conclude our stuffs. So looking at their goal scored, we can see that they had 1.67 goal scored average, and looking at the league average, we have 2.35 goal average, which happens to be that the goal scored by these two teams is very low compared to that of the league average, and that particular league average itself seems to be a very low goal scoring league, because for having 2.35, it shows that the average of their goals scored in that particular league most times is 2 goals and sometimes and below. All right, so now moving on to the next segment of predicting the percentage of their over 1.5 goals, we are currently seeing 44%. That is extremely low. So this shows that this particular start is a very perfect start for us to go for. In case you are using this particular bet platform, it is just additional factors and advantage for you guys. And let us check the team stats to see their percentage of over 1.5 goals while playing at home and while playing away. For the home team, we are currently seeing 43%, and for the away team, we are seeing 25%. So alright, this particular game seems to be a perfect game to go for as under 3.5 goals. So we are going to check the odd allocated by the bookmakers and conclude on what to go about it. Alright, so for this particular game, the market for the under 3.5 goals was not provided by the bookmakers. So the limited market provided seems to be under 2.5 goals, but no problem. In case they provide the goal bound option, we are still good to go. Alright, so let us set the goal bound from 0 to 3 and let's see what we have. All right, so the odd allocated by the bookmakers for the goal band of 0 to 3 seems to be 1.10 odd, and it gives us an insight that this particular game is expected, based on the odd allocated by the bookmakers, we are having 90% probability that this particular game will actually end up as under 3.5 goals. All right, this particular game is under the Egypt league, that is the second league. All right, now moving on to the next game, which happens to be the fourth game in this particular video, and let us check the factors. Don't forget, different all these particular games has different factors to consider, and some of these factors are what I'm trying to show you guys and how you can consider them before predicting your games as under goals. All right, now so the fourth game in this particular video seems to be under the Italy Serie C Group A. This particular league, many people don't usually focus on it because we mostly focus on some top league games and some other leagues like that. But these particular leagues, they just play their own games and nobody, we don't usually patronize their market option. Now let us check the stats and conclude and see if their start is giving the vibe of going for under 3.5 goal. And let's see their last 5 games against other opponents and the last 5 games against each other and see what we have there. Okay, in the last 5 games of the home team, they actually had 100% under 3.5 goals points, and looking at the away team, they had 80% of their games ending up as under 3.5 goals. This particular factors is actually okay. And let us check the last previous games against each other. They've only played 8 games against each other, and we are only concerned about the last 5 games for now. All right, so looking at the last 5 games, also the most times these particular teams, they played under 3.5 goals, except in this particular match that ended up in 4-1. So at least we are able to get 80% of their last previous games ending up as under 3.5 goals. Okay, this particular segment is done, and let's see the head to head new aspect and see the percentage of average goals scored and average over 1.5 goals percentage. All right, so this particular league seems to be leagues that does not always score goals very well like that, and based on the average goals scored by the league, which happens to be 2.45, and the average goals scored between these two opponents seems to be 1.65 goals scored. And looking at their percentage of over 1.5 goals, we are seeing 65%, actually very close to 70, but at least below that. And let's see their over 1.5 percentage while playing at home and while playing away. And for the home team, we can see 56%, and for the away team, we can see 70%. Let's assume that we are having something around 85 or 89% for the home team, and we are also having something around 89% or 85% for the away team. That particular factor seems to be something that can give that particular game a vibe of maybe probably the game will actually exceed 3 goals. But what we're having here seems to be a perfect game as under 3.5 goals. And let us check the odd allocated to it by the bookmakers, and let's see what we have there. All right, so the bookmakers actually extend the odd to even under 4.5 goals at odd of 1.04, and the odd allocated for the under 3.5 goals seems to be 1.17 odd. And if we are to probably calculate the probability of the outcome of the games of this particular game based on the odd allocated to it by bookmakers, the probability of outcome should be around 83%. If you guys do the odd calculation probability and see the possible outcome of it, the percentage of it will be around 83% percentage of possible outcome. All right, so this happens to be the fourth match that is expected to end up as under 3.5 goals. And moving on to the last game, which happens to be on the same league, which happens to be Italy Serie C Group A. We have this particular match as under 3.5 goals also, but we are going to quickly check the stats and look at the factors that we consider before we conclude on predicting it on under 3.5 goals. In case you are not using this bet platform, don't bother yourself or stress. The reason why I'm predicting my games as under 3.5 goals for this particular league, I'm going to show you guys right now. If you guys have to look at the top 10 leagues that most times they always end up as under 3.5 goals, at least with 80% assurance that their games are ending up as under 3.5 goals. This particular league happens to be one of it, despite the fact that we have many of it like Italy, Serie B, Serie, so many like that, Group B, Group A, so many leagues that like that. But this particular league seems to be one of it, and that's where we are exploring some of their games. There are other games from this particular league that we decided to avoid, but well, the reason why for how we remove those games from our analysis is because they actually did not meet the factors that we are checking in these particular games. All right, so let us quickly check the start and let's see what we have here. So looking at this particular game, most of their games are actually ending up as straight draw. And looking at the last 5 games against other opponents, we have 100% game ending up as under 3.5 goals for the home team, and for the away team we have games ending up as under 3.5 goals. Perfect. And moving on to the last previous games against each other, we have 80% of their game ending up as under 3.5 goals. All right, so let us check their head-to-head new, which happens to be where we are going to check the average goals scored for both teams and the league stuffs. So for the league, the average goal scored for the league seems to be 2.45 as we checked earlier, and average goal scored by these two teams seems to be 1.50, and for the percentage of the over 1.5 goals, it is 63%. All right, so this particular segment we are actually okay with it. Let us check the over 1.5 stuffs, and we are currently having 70% for this particular team for the home team, and 60% for the away team. So this is a very simple start analysis that you guys just need to do in case you want to predict your under 3.5 goals. All right, so in case you want to know the name of the app that I use for rating this particular league that has best, maybe best league for under 3.5 goals, best league for both teams to score, best league for over 1.5 goals, I'm going to show you guys right now. All right, so, but let us first check out the odd allocated by the bookmakers for this. So for the under 3.5 goals, this is the odd for this particular game. So this is very similar to what we've checked earlier. A total of 1.17 odd for the under 3.5 goals of this particular game. And let us see what we have in the goal bound option, and let's see. All right, so it happens to be the same thing, so we are good to go as anyone that you feel like going with. So with just 5 games right now, we should be having something very close to 2 odd, if not 2 odd. And in total of 5 games, the top 5 games for today's predictions on under 3.5 goals, and the best games that you guys can actually go for as under 3.5 goals. In total, we're able to accumulate 1.86 odd, and depending on how the odd is fluctuating, odd fluctuates based on probability of outcomes. About the leagues, about the betting app, not really, well, let me say betting app that I use for rating this particular best leagues for your predictions or your market. I usually mention about this particular app in this particular best YouTube channel that it is BetMine, and in case you guys are going to be using it, make sure that you are not always following their prediction, their daily prediction 100%. Most of their predictions are actually accurate based on percentage. They do their predictions based on percentage of the game, but how these sport stuffs can be, so you need to apply further analysis on your game, so you can actually make use of it to generate the best leagues that has at least 80% of what you want. So we have it so many like that, and we have game leagues that most of their games ending up as under 3.5 goals, their percentage is very low. All right, so thanks for watching, guys. In case you guys want to join us on our Telegram channel, or you want to join us on our WhatsApp VIP group, you can actually join the group link in the video description or in the comment section. And also, in case you have any questions to ask us, you can actually drop it in the comment section. See you guys in the next video. Bye.